Hello, CBOQ family. My name is Jamila, and I'm the administrative assistant for the Church Life and Leadership team with your weekly update. Today is June 15th, and things are finally starting to open up. To help your church through these transitions and to equip you and your ongoing ministry, we have some resources and upcoming events for you. So let's get to them. First and foremost, you'll have heard by now that the Government of Ontario is now allowing church buildings to reopen with some specific guidelines. You can find these guidelines as well as some other information, important information for reopening your church buildings at baptist.ca/COVID-19. Also, Transitions 101 will be launching a prayer video for the class of 2020 on June 28th. This video can be used as a prayer guide for individuals and congregations for their grads. Tanya Yoon, our Children and Family Ministries Associate, is facilitating 2 meetings next week on this topic. Tuesday, June 16th at 1 p.m. is for churches considering or planning digital camp, and Wednesday, June 17th at 1 p.m. is for churches considering in-person camp. Please email Tanya to receive the Zoom invite to either of these meetings. Finally, if you are a CBOQ pastor, we want you to join us for a facilitated 1-hour online dialogue on June 17th or June 18th at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. to talk about the dynamics that you are currently dealing with, questions you are wrestling with, and what is giving you hope. You can find out more at baptist.ca/events. Now, we're going to hear from Steve Barker, our CBOQ Board President, and the pastor at Hope Community Christian Church in Cumberland Beach, where they tried something new. So I'm turning the mic over to him.
Hello, Steve.
Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi. So Steve Barker is the pastor at Hope Community Christian Church in Cumberland Beach. He is also our CBOQ Board President, and he has agreed to share with us today a little about some of the things that his church has been up to during this pandemic. So Steve, would you mind sharing a bit with me about what your church was up to the other night?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we did a drive-in service on a Wednesday evening. We called it a Vespers service. It was about 30 minutes long. And it was a time for our congregation to gather in a very distant way during COVID and at least connect with each other through the glass of a windshield and through the power of loudspeakers, and at least having some level of connection and some level of community during this time of what seems like a long separation or a long time of isolation. We had about a third of the congregation come out, which was a great experience. And for some people, they thought it was the greatest thing ever. And for others, it was, not quite like the real thing. And so, we had mixed reviews, but it was certainly worth doing and something that the majority of the congregation really appreciated.
So I guess for the people who really enjoyed it, what did they find most meaningful?
Well, the fact that, they're not alone. It's kind of like the Old Testament believers at times where they thought, am I the only one left? And when you do weeks of online church, and I've got some of my backdrops behind me that I use for our videoing, it's sometimes a little bit plastic or cold, and you miss that face-to-face. And so even just seeing that number of cars coming out and people waving at each other, and just acknowledging that we're in this together and that we're still church. And even though we've been in a different form for a long time, that this community and this congregation has a real sense of care and connection for each other.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So what did it feel like to actually see a whole bunch of familiar faces after a long time of being more or less isolated?
Well, because there was restrictions on the number of people that could work or act as staff, I wore about 3 hats. So one of the hats that I wore was I was the welcoming greeter as people were driving in the main church driveway. So for me, it was great because people cracked their windows actually about 1 inch so they could actually talk a little bit, and I could give them instructions. And it was just so good to see families. Like we had, minivans to SUVs to sports cars. We actually, one problem we had is that someone showed up in a convertible, and like, how do you distance in a convertible? But it was just really great to see the faces, and everyone was at least so excited coming in. We're like, oh, it's great to be together. That's the short answer. It was just nice.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of feeling that way and ready to actually see people in person instead of just through a screen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Well, if there was one thing that you learned from this that you think other CBOQ churches would really benefit from, what would be that sort of one piece of information that you would like to share?
It was worth doing, regardless if anyone showed up. The idea of worshiping loudspeaker over a community. We're on the side of a highway, but in a residential area and right next to a public school. And the whole neighborhood was that was within earshot was outside or sitting on their porches or listening in, and it was just worthwhile to praise God in a public way during an isolated pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that's great. And thanks so much for sharing. And I know that we're right now kind of moving into the next phase with the Ontario government allowing some reopening. So there'll be lots of changes ahead, but hopefully we can all continue to work back towards meeting together in person in a safe way.
It'd be great.
Yeah. So thanks so much. And we'll be talking again soon.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Take care.
Bye.
Here at CBOQ, we're always praying for our churches and pastors, especially during this time. We hope that you continue to be encouraged. We are all navigating through this together. So many blessings to you all. That's it for this week. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and so you don't miss out on anything. And don't forget to check out our daily Corin tips.